Hello, Car-Revz-Daily fans. Detroit Bureau Chief Carl Malik here, and welcome to our latest installment of our Candid Thoughts and First Impressions video series. In this series, we give you some of our candid, unfiltered thoughts on some of our testers that come through the office. And we are choosing to feature the 2020 Hyundai Ioniq Limited as part of this latest installment. This will be a two-part episode, and we will have formal driving impressions as well as more of our thoughts in the video tomorrow. But for those that have been following the Ioniq as well as the Ioniq brand itself, today is a very big day. Hyundai did make a bit of a splash earlier this morning and revealed that the company worked with rising Korean band BTS to make a formal theme song for the Ioniq brand. Yes, this, believe it or not, there will be a theme song that will come with the Ioniq brand. But what is the Ioniq brand, you might ask? Well, Ioniq will be another sub-brand for Hyundai, and it will follow largely in the vein of the Genesis sub-brand and offer models and a distinct identity. But whereas Genesis is catered more towards the luxury market, Ioniq will be focused on the green market, and all their models, sedans, crossovers, utilities, etc., will all be electrified. And the Ioniq will, in its sedan form, like we have here, will also be a part of the lineup. But while we will have to wait a bit to find out more information about some of the models and new features that will be coming to the sub-brand, Hyundai has revealed that if you want to download the theme song for the Ioniq brand, you can do so. We have wrote about this, and we have the link on the story about this announcement on our website. But back to the matter at hand, and that is this beautiful 2020 Hyundai Ioniq Limited. This particular example is the traditional hybrid. It is not the plug-in, and it's not the all-electric model, but it does serve as a good window into some of the changes that are present for Ioniq. 2021 doesn't bring a lot of changes, but 2020 certainly covered the bulk of them. As you can see, the front fascia now features a brand new front grille design, and the LED headlights and running lights have a more angular look to them. Sharp angles and edges were a theme in this particular redesign, and it actually makes the Ioniq look less like a futuristic Razor-esque design and even less like a hybrid, which is good for some buyers that want to be able to save fuel, but they don't want to look like they're riding around in a quasi-sci-fi futuristic blob. As we get to the rear, you can see that minor changes exist here too. You get redesigned taillights, a new rear bumper cover, as well as other minor changes to help make the Ioniq fresh. Of course, new wheel designs, like this design here, are also prevalent. And like before, Hyundai claims that they're supposed to improve aerodynamics slightly. As we slip inside the Ioniq, you can see that changes here are a bit more substantial. The old infotainment system has been pitched, and you do get a bigger screen. Of course, the lone sacrifice here is that instead of physical buttons, you do get more touch sensitive controls. But for other systems that we've had experience with this, load times are actually pretty reasonable. Push it, give it a moment, it'll go to whatever you need to go to. This setup also exists for the climate controls, though Hyundai engineers were kind enough to leave buttons for the front and rear defrost and the radio on, off, and volume control. Another key change is that on the Ioniq, the push button shifter that was used on some of these has been replaced with a traditional gear shift and lever. The only way you can get the push button style transmission selector these days will be on the electric only. If you don't have the electric, if you have the plug-in hybrid or the traditional hybrid like we're in now, you will get this setup. As we look around, you can see that Hyundai also made some effort to improve interior quality. It might not be very noticeable when you take a look around, but Hyundai claims that the seats as well as some of the interior materials have been upgraded for a more premium look. Of course, we're glad that Hyundai did keep the dual 12-volt traditional phone charger as well as the centrally mounted USB port. And Hyundai has even added wireless Qi-style charging. But a big change here as we go to the digital display is that the hybrids will have an all-new GMN mode. And what that mode basically entails is that in certain situations and in certain areas, the hybrid will go from the traditional combined electric and gas propulsion to an all-EV setup. Meaning that if you're in a certain area where, say, it's forbidden to use gasoline cars, or if you're in an area where you'll get taxed, like with congestion charges, you can slip this on to full EV, and the Ioniq hybrid will actually work on full EV temporarily. So that's a big change. And if you're an owner of an Ioniq electric, the battery pack is now bigger. Range on the older Ioniq electrics was pretty low. You're at about 120 miles. Not exactly good for interstate commuting. But Hyundai promises that on the electrics, the bigger battery pack will allow it to have range that's a bit closer to its Kona brethren. We've been told that it won't quite match it, but the electric will now have a revised range of over 200 miles on a charge, which is really good. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to part 1 of this 2-part episode. And stay tuned tomorrow when we will have our GoPro system set up on the inside, and we'll give you some more of our thoughts as we have an opportunity to take the Ioniq for a drive. And if you have any questions about this video series, any suggestions, or any other questions, please feel free to drop us a line on any of our social media channels. We do monitor them on a regular basis, and we will do our very best to address your needs. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.